Welcome to the We Don't Have Cookies Thanksgiving episode with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. Once again, life got busy recently, so there was no show last week. Really sorry about that. I'll talk more about that later. But first, I'm really excited about my guest today. You have seen him on the late night talk show Conan, the Pete Holmes Show, or bumped into him at a PWG wrestling show, or you may remember him as one of the three regulars on Kill Tony, but that's actually not him. That's William Montgomery. He's an actor, he's a writer, he's a comedian, he's a father, he's a human, and he is Magic Matt McCarthy. How you doing?
Real good. How's it going, brother?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you for a very long time. Before we go any further, have to address the elephant in the room or the listeners are going to kill me because everybody has to be wondering the same thing that I'm wondering. And I know there has to be a funny story behind this. Why do people call you Matt McCarthy?
Well, it started with my mother, and it just kind of stuck.
Oh my God. I knew there'd be a good story behind that, and I didn't disappoint there. Well, I was reading IMDb, and according to IMDb, and I quote, Matt McCarthy is known for having red hair and a beard. What inspired you to go that direction?
Around 13 years old, hair just started growing, and I kept trying to get rid of it. And then finally around like age 19, gave up, and I just let it grow.
Wow, that's fascinating. I recently got HBO Max. I binged watched what is now my favorite show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And while I was watching an episode, Larry David was walking out of a ballpark, and lo and behold, you were outside leaning against a car, started yelling at him. Did you know you were being filmed that day?
Yeah, I was. I ran into Bobby Kelly, and we decided to lean on a stranger's car and harass people walking out of a hotel. And it was a fun day. And then all of a sudden, I'm on HBO, and then I sued everybody. I sued Larry David. I sued Larry Charles. I sued HBO. I sued AT&T. I sued Bill Buckner. And Buckner's been in hiding ever since.
Wow. That's incredible. You had to make a killing off of that.
Yeah. That's why I don't work.
Well, you've appeared on a lot of TV shows, so I have to ask a question that's been bugging me ever since I was a little kid. Every time I watch TV, in the back of my mind, it always seems like the people on the screen participated in a Jell-O fight before filming. Like, people are just slinging Jell-O at each other and pouring bowls of full Jell-O on unsuspecting interns and just having a blast. Is there a lot of that going on in Hollywood, as I suspect?
Yes.
Okay. That sounds good. So, as a teenager, you spent Easter at the Kennedy compound. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. My brother was driving me to get on the ferry boat to Nantucket, and we made great time. And it was Good Friday, and we had time to kill, so he drove me to the Kennedy compound. And I knew something was up when he said, "That's strange. There's usually an armed guard here at this gate." And then he just drove through the gate, and we drove around on the property for like 5 or 10 minutes. And he pointed out different stuff to me. And then this is all legitimate. Then we drove past the house, and we could see them. I couldn't tell you who we saw, but they were certainly Kennedys. And they were like getting breakfast together at this big table. And I was like, holy shit. But then, that night when I got to Nantucket, went to like 5 o'clock mass or whatever, with my parents, and Senator Ted Kennedy was actually at the little chapel in downtown Nantucket. So I was like, oh no, he's here. He's going to remember me or something. But yeah, that was ridiculous.
And I also recommend everybody to go check out the Risk podcast with Kevin Allison, former guest on the show. Matt told the full story on there. It's an incredible story. You're going to absolutely love it. Recommend going out of your way to check that out. I like to do something on the show called a question from my last guest, where I ask my current guest a question from my last guest without my last guest knowing who my next guest will be. The question can be silly or serious. Matt, are you ready for a question from my last guest?
I'm ready.
My question for the next guest, whoever that may be, is what prediction or predictions do you have for how 2020 is going to end?
It's got to end in a war or something, right?
It's looking that way. Well, we've had some fun on the show. I've asked some silly questions, but I got a serious question for you, Matt.
All right.
The 17th century saw the government introduce import duties on a range of goods. Smugglers brought goods into the country without paying these duties so they could sell them at a cheaper price compared to the traders who had paid the duties. As more goods were taxed in the 18th century, smuggling activity increased as well. What would you have done to curb the smuggling?
Probably had to have people on the inside. Usually what winds up happening when there is any prohibition to create a underworld economy.
Well, before you go, I'd like to play a game with you if you got time for it.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. I played this game with a guest on an episode or two ago. I had so much fun. I wanted to do it again. This game may be a weekly addition to the show. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
1.
Boy, do we know how to have fun on this show or what. Hopefully the listeners had just as much fun listening to us play that game as we had playing it. Matt, where can people find you online?
At McCarthy Redhead on Twitter and Instagram, and listen to, I got a couple of podcasts, the We Watch Wrestling podcast on Wednesdays, justifying my movie collection on the weekend. I Love You Okay, podcast I do with my wife. Get that on Monday.
All good podcasts. I especially love the We Watch Wrestling podcast. That's one of my favorites of all time. I really got sad when you said that you were going to make it pay only because I didn't have the money to actually afford a subscription. And then when you ended up having a Patreon and keeping it free, that really made my day. So I appreciate that very much. So poor people like me can keep listening to people who made it rich by suing a ton of people because of Curb Your Enthusiasm like you.
That's right. Everybody's on the list.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you again for being on the show. I had a good time. Love to have you back. I don't see that happening, though. I don't
Thanks
think
for having me, man.
I don't think you had as much fun as I did, but that's okay.
Hey, this is Kevin Allison of the Risk Podcast, and you're listening to We Don't Have Cookies.
This is Frankie McDonald. Happy Thanksgiving. We don't have cookies.
Happy Thanksgiving from Mike Canistero, unless you're a turkey.
Mike Canistero will be back on the show very soon. As a matter of fact, he will be back on next week to debate with Pete from the YouTube channel Pete and Peter. Mike posted a video with a science experiment. Check out his YouTube channel, Science with Mike. Peter and Pete disagreed with just about everything he said. They've been going back and forth in the comment section of both of their YouTube channels ever since. This should be pretty interesting, and it will be nice to have Mike back on the podcast. It's been a long time since he was on. Another person who hasn't been on in a long time is one of my favorite listeners and one of your favorite members of the We Don't Have Cookies family, John the Songman. But all of that ends today because with me now is the one, the only, John the Songman. John, how the hell are you?
Fabulous as always. It's always a pleasure, and it's always an honor, and it's always thankful before Thanksgiving of songs that I'll be able to be giving. Because I know for sure this was the first time I had to give your show a phone ringing, because it's always great to make sure, Jason, you're the man because you're a fan of the Songman, and that's why I do anything to help a fan.
Well, it's great to have you back. What is your favorite part of Thanksgiving? Is it the turkey, the stuffing, the desserts, the football game? What is it?
Well, it's always part of the family and stuffing, because it's always great to be thankful for moments like this, and it's always great to have Thanksgiving for this to be thankful for, because the show always gets a score to give songs more.
What are you thankful for this year?
Well, I'm thankful for having people on that had a bullshit of a year, and it's great to be on live with people that give a cheer, because I know this has been an uncomfortable and unsafe year, so that means calling into the show is giving Jason nothing but a big cheer, and unfortunately, we didn't get to do a Zoom this time of the year, but maybe we'll be able to celebrate a Christmas time of the year, because this is always a favorite time of mine each and every year.
Well, John, before you go, do you have a Thanksgiving song for the listeners at home?
Well, it's always good to make sure everyone's ready for it, because whoever's listening right now, wake up and start your shower singing, because just so you know, this is the time you'll be hearing your doorbells ringing, because this is the time we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving, and I'm just curious and wonderfully interested in what you'll be thankful for giving, because just so you know, I know this is a bad time to celebrate Thanksgiving of what COVID-19 has been giving.
All right, John. Well, it was great to have you on. I hope you have a great day.
And you do the same, Jason. We'll be keeping up as always and see what's next for our next show. Next time I'm on, because you're just like the man that I love to help out just for the show, and you'll be keeping up as always. And like you said, it's been quite a while, so it's good to do it before 21. So it's great talking to you again to keep me up. And you have a safe week, Thanksgiving, and if not, Merry Christmas, because I'm sure we're going to... Well, actually, you did do last year, didn't you?
Yeah.
I remember. We did. So maybe we'll get to that before, just to make this enjoyable.
All right, sounds good. One thing that I am thankful for this Thanksgiving is that I have gotten new equipment for the podcast. I'm working on a whole new setup right now. I'm really excited about it, because before, when John would send in songs for me to play for the guests, I would usually play them after my interview with the guest during the break, because with my old setup, the guests couldn't hear anything from my computer. They could just hear what came through my microphone. So now I can play them for the guests and get their reactions on the show. A few guests were able to hear them before, but that's because I sent them to them while I was recording so they could play it on their end and hear it, and then I added it in post, so it sounded better. But based on those reactions, we're going to have a lot of good reactions coming up from the guests. I figured that I would test it out on Frankie, and speaking of Frankie, I've also added an intro for him on my sound pad. I'm looking forward to his reaction to that too. Along with Thanksgiving comes Black Friday. If you're going out, stay safe. I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, Frankie McDonald will give you this week's weather.
This week only. No money down. No payments till spring. No payments in spring. No payments in summer. No payments ever. When? This week only. We pay the GST. We pay the PST. We pay for delivery. We pay for everything. How do we do it? How do we offer these fabulous deals? Volume. We got the most. The best. The worst. We've got it all. We got everything. Except one thing. What's that? We've got no store. No products. So come on down. This week only. No parking problems. No parking payments. No parking lot. You don't have to park. You don't even have to come. So don't come down. Stay away. Stay at home. This week. Every week. Every year. No money down. No payment ever. That's nothing for nothing.
Want to contact the show? Send an email to jason@wedon'thavecookies.com or call 929-266-9342 and leave a voicemail.
This is Mark Jansen from Big Brother 19 and MarkJansenFitness.com, and you are listening to We Don't Have Cookies.
I am back, and now it is time for the world's most famous weatherman and YouTube sensation, Frankie McDonald.
We don't have cookies. Be prepared.
Frankie, what will the weather be like this week starting on Monday?
Yes, it's going to be colder in Ontario and Dayton, Ohio. Census Dayton, Ohio is getting a lot of rain today. They're bringing lots of snow up in southern Ontario in slushy conditions. It was snowing in London, Ontario today. and spring and slushy conditions in Toronto, Hamilton, Niagara Falls, and those places. It's going to bring a lot of rain to the eastern seaboard of the United States and eastern United States. Since it's bringing a lot of rain, Dayton, Ohio, it's going to bring a lot of rain, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, and all these places. Since it's going to be really cold air down in Southern California and Texas, then they get much colder air headed for Texas later on in the month. And England's going to bring a lot of rain in England going on right now in the United Kingdom. Vladivostok, Russia had so much freezing rain on Thursday with so much freezing rain. Vladivostok, Russia is going to be nice all week.
Do you have any advice for people in the U.S. for Thanksgiving?
That means that don't visit their family members who got the COVID-19. That's one, because they stay 2 meters apart, 6.5 feet apart, 6.5 feet apart.
That's good advice, Frankie. A listener named John the Songman made a song about you. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Frankie McDonald, honey, honey, honey. I just need you to act all the time to act your comedian work so damn funny. Because your work makes people want to see you so yummy. Because you're so the one that everyone keeps calling you honey. Because you're much sweeter than a bunny.
What'd you think of that, Frankie?
It's a great one.
All right. Well, Frankie, it was great to have you on. Is there anything you want to promote before you go?
I'd like to introduce to Trey Campbell. He runs the ESPN 97.5 FM, Houston, Texas, radio station.
All right. Sounds good, Frankie.
He'll be going on his show.
I would love that. I would love to be on. Well, Frankie, is there anything else you'd like to say before you go?
And did you hear about that? My focus, and my Twitter is at Frankie McD.
Yes, and you have a book, Be Prepared, The Guide to Life of Frankie McDonald. That's a great one. And don't forget, you have action figures out there, too.
My action figures are on FrankieActionFigure.com.
Yeah, and I recommend everybody to go out and buy one of those. I have one. It is fantastic.
Jason, did you get a Frankie bobblehead yet yourself?
Yes, I have a Frankie bobblehead. I bought the book, and I have the action figure.
And then you'll be going on at ESPN 97.5 FM, Houston, Texas.
That would be great. I love Texas. I work with a lot of people there, so I would love to be on the show.
Trey Campbell, he's the guy running the ESPN 97.5 FM. You'll be on their show.
Sounds great. I'd love it.
That means and you'll be joining Robin Slim's show soon enough.
Hey, that would be fun. I would like that too.
You'll be joining Robin Slim show. We don't have cookies and Robin Slim show crossover.
Hey, that sounds like a good idea, Frankie.
This Wednesday coming up at 1:20 p.m. on December 2nd at 1:20 p.m. You'll be making an appearance on Base Guy Show on Skype.
Hey, I can do it. I'm free that day.
Yes, you're free that day, Wednesday, December 2nd, 1:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:20 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time. You'll be a guest on Base Guy Show.
I'd love that. Sounds good, Frankie.
Keep that in your mind.
I will. I'll write it down.
Best of luck to you. I'm Frank Down. You are listening to We Don't Have Cookies Internet Radio Show.
Frankie's booking me on all kinds of shows. I love it. He's a good guy. I think he was thrown off by John the Songman's song. I'm still getting used to the new equipment, so I'm going to cut this short and work on getting the show out on time for once. But it was a good episode. I hope you had fun listening to it. If you live in the U.S., have a great Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you next Monday.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
This is all legitimate.